Good morning, everyone. Or good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Thanks for joining me, JustaVeteran. And just doing a little bit of an update, really, on Jay Slater, which has consumed many people on social media and around the world, especially in the UK. It's got more attention than many other missing persons. And for all the wrong reasons. Yeah, a guy's gone missing. And like I've always said, and I'll always caveat, I hope that he's found safe and well. I wouldn't wish harm on anyone, but this all seems a bit fishy. From the very start of this story, there were inconsistencies with information that was being released to the public. From the very first statement made by the female friend, by the way, I'm not going to mention names to protect myself, who escorted or accompanied, who befriended or was friends with Jay, her very first story raised inconsistencies all over social media. From the very early stages, there was allegations coming out of social media from people who allegedly knew him, who allegedly worked with him, that he was a drug mule. The fact that he had either lost or taken after drugs, and that actually this was a drug-fueled retaliatory kidnap, or even worse, murder. Now, before we go any further, please understand my post is purely for entertainment purposes only, sharing my opinions. I'm not an authority on the matter, I'm not an official searcher, and I don't speak on behalf of any formal organisation or body. So from the beginning, things weren't right, were they? You know, even from the girl friend of Jay, her initial report, the way she set up a GoFundMe page specifically for £30,000 or thereabouts, which is now raised to over 50,000. I mean, that in itself is just a bit weird and a bit strange. Then, of course, there's her interview with TV. The TV obviously convinced her to do an interview on TV, on the news, but she wouldn't face the camera. She faced away from the camera. Now, that is weird. Now, what we've got to go on, a large part of this whole story, is kind of speculation. We don't know very many things that are fact. For instance, the majority of the information we have is that what has come from this girl, and then later corroborated by a couple of people in terms of the phone call or Snapchat he sent to his friend, where he allegedly was going off-road down a bank and had cut himself on cactus. Now, I know Snapchat is popular, but isn't it a coincidence that they use a social media app which, as far as I understand, being an old crusty, there's no record of the snap retained. Once you've viewed the snap, it's gone. Hence why it's a preferred use of communication for many undesirables, let's say. Then there was the woman at the Airbnb, allegedly told the guy that Jay, that a bus would be every 10 minutes, but he walked off in the other direction. Then she passed him going in the wrong direction and said nothing. Then we have the mention of the watch and the missing Rolex, which some people say wasn't a Rolex, it was an AP, and he's posted a picture of that on Snapchat as well, with the most interesting point that he allegedly said on Snapchat that he had stole the watch. Now, why would any person in their right mind make that statement on Snapchat that I stole the watch, incriminating themselves directly into a crime of theft? Doesn't make sense. But the big thing for me is this whole issue around the Airbnb, which I can't get my fat head around. Why would a lad who, judging by the images we've seen that night, if they indeed were from that night, something to bear in mind, we don't know if they were from another night, is why would he, in that state, choose to get in a vehicle with guys that he knows or doesn't know and drive all the way up to the mountains to sleep on a sofa in this Airbnb with two guys, when actually his accommodation was just down the road from where he was in Los Cristianos? It does not make sense. So the last two men that Jay was allegedly with in the Airbnb were apparently questioned by police and stayed an extra day. This is where I get confused. They said that he entered the B&B alive and he left the B&B alive. We're going on what they say, which, let's say the guy nicknamed Johnny Vegas has turned round to the British investigator and stated along the lines of that Jay said he had nowhere to sleep. So Johnny Vegas said, oh, you can come and stay at ours. Which I would understand if their accommodation was in close proximity to where Jay was staying. But it wasn't. They said on the way back, just before they got to the mountains, they stopped at a cafe to have something to drink. Is there any evidence of this? Have we spoken to the people working at that cafe that night to corroborate that fact, to establish that they actually were there? Is there any CCTV? Then when they get back to the Airbnb, this Johnny Vegas said that his mate, who was in the front, went in to the Airbnb, turned left and went straight to bed. Jay then followed. They went upstairs. Johnny Vegas pointed to the sofa, said to Jay, there you go, and give him a blanket and a towel. He then says that Jay asked for a cigarette and he got a Camel, left a Camel cigarette out for him. Then he says he asked for a phone charger and he told him there was one in his mate's room to go and get that. Now, is it just strange that the story perfectly matches the evidence that's out there? That evidence of allegedly Jay Slater stood on the doorstep with this blanket around him, having a cigarette. Kind of corroborates what Johnny Vegas says, right? But then you've got the droplets of blood on the step. Has that actually been recovered by the forensic team? Have they actually established what the blood is, if indeed it is blood, which everyone is speculating, or whose blood it is? If it's Jay's blood, then surely that's a cause for concern, bearing in mind he only allegedly cut himself on the cactus after he had left the Airbnb and went on his walk back to Los Cristianos direction. Because after all, that's what the friend in the UK said he put on Snapchat. Why would the authorities in Spain release the two guys, or allow them to go, who were last seen with him? It doesn't make sense. Why aren't they being questioned longer? It just doesn't add up. So now, we are no further forward. If anything, we're just more confused. We've got to bear in mind the fact that Johnny Vegas is a convicted criminal. A very undesirable character by all accounts. Someone who tried to flood Wales with serious narcotics and drugs. He was convicted 9 years ago. Or, some people say, for 9 years. But he's a convicted felon, a criminal, a bad dude, who apparently has connections with Morocco, which was the original storyline by all those people on social media having a bit of a conspiracy theory suggestive session. Do you remember the Moroccans? I think this UK investigator is probably going to get closer to the truth than anyone else has. The fact is that there are many theories out there. The majority of them are plausible, and we can't actually disprove none of them or discredit any of them until we know what actually happened to Jay Slater. I've only mentioned a few inconsistencies in this short video, and the question is, where is he? What's my opinion? Well, my opinion stands for nothing. But I do believe what's pivotal in this whole investigation is the reality of what happened involving the two guys. I'm not accusing no one of anything, you understand? But involving them two guys. Did he make it to the Airbnb? Is that Snapchat of him stood on the step with a cigarette actually him? Or is it someone else? Been put on his Snapchat phone, made to look like that he was there, and therefore it fits the story of Johnny Vegas. Did his phone ping with him in the place that they said it did? Or was it in the possession of someone else? Did he actually send that Snapchat to the guy in the UK? Or was he paid to say that he did? Is this a drugs incident that has gone horribly wrong? Or as some people still believe, is this to do with revenge over the incident that Jay himself was convicted of a few years ago in the UK? By all accounts, everything seems to have returned to normal on the island of Tenerife now. People back to the nightclubs doing their stuff, and apart from a few posters that have been displayed, it's kind of returned back to normal. Jay's parents are still on the island, and apparently his father said that something stinks. Something stinks. Now, we're all looking at Jay's mum and dad saying that they know because of their reactions weren't what we thought they would be, and I did as well. But as it goes along, I'm just thinking, do they know? Or is it something to do with these two guys in the Airbnb? And that's what I'm placing my money on. I think now, if I'm honest with you, my own theory, my own opinion is Jay will eventually be found, but no longer with this mortal coil. The question is, they pinged him at the Airbnb. What if, I know, I'm speculating, when he was in that car, he was took somewhere completely different after the visit to the cafe, if they went. Maybe the deed was done, he was disposed of in somewhere completely different. Then they drove back to the Airbnb. Maybe the woman at the Airbnb has been paid off to say what she said. Maybe she wasn't. It just all stinks. Anyway, I've rambled on now for over 11 minutes. I just wanted to give this update on Jay because it's just more and more confusing, and each and every day goes by, the speculation, the incrimination is still there. Noise has gone off the girl and is very focused on these two guys. Is that part of the plan? Is that true? Is it just speculation? I really don't know, but let's just say that I hope it gets sorted soon, because far too many people are wasting their time looking, wondering what the fuck has happened to Jay Slater. Thanks for watching. If you watched it to the end, thank you so much. I do appreciate it. It's only my opinion. Everything in this video was for entertainment. Thank you for your time. I'm not an authority. I'm just a veteran.